Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Got Betrayed and Become the Crimson Dragon God of Arcadia Part 2. Before we start, please go support RageRevan and Darkdecade97 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Chapter 3. Magic Learning. A few months later, Academy dorms, 6 a.m. The Academy starts its classes at 9 a.m, but in Issei's case he was researching some magic. He often does this, whenever he has time. He had his own classes, coupled with Willow's training which allowed him to become stronger. He remembered his own weaknesses, and he must overcome them at all costs. He had already adjusted to the Academy's classes as well as Willow's training whenever she got the chance. Meanwhile, Nyx was asleep in her bed. She wanted to sleep for some more time, while Issei was reading some books on magic that Aqua had given him when he headed back to his dorm. So that is how you use holy light magic, Issei spoke as he started to draw the magic circle on the gloves, with Drake commenting. This brings you back, doesn't it? Issei looked at his best friend and responded, indeed, I can't deny it, it is just like memory read magic and even concealment magic. The factions were so blind by their own hubris that they did not even know I was capable of magic. My own brother stole glory, but only trained to show that he was strong, just to maintain face. Either way, I wonder how they are handling the situation. Drake shook his head and spoke. Doesn't matter, if anything they are on their own. Well, I think we should try this outside. Issei nodded as he got up and headed out of his dorm room. He knew Nyx would be awake after a while, and he still had time before class. Once downstairs, he reaches the training area, where he sees a few dummies just like his time at the initiation. The gloves in his hand start to glow a bright yellow in color, as several energy blasts were starting to appear from his side. Issei jumped up in the air and chanted. Light storm barrage. Issei commanded several holy light energy as he aimed it at the training dummies. The barrage was able to land on several of the dummies, easily damaging it. However, the dummies were damaged, not destroyed. Issei nodded, he would be needing to put in more mana into the spell. However, he first needed to master the spell without having to use a glove for it. Issei, someone had called him from above. Issei turned to see a familiar looking one-winged angel floating down from above as she greeted him with a smile. How is your training going on, young man? Issei looked at her and responded. It has been going quite well. I have been learning holy light magic. It would be useful against demonic enemies. Willow nodded, noticing the gloves present on his hands. She saw the incantation circle on them. So that's how you practice. Willow spoke, deducing what could be magic learning. You use magic gloves so you get a grasp on the magic you wish to learn, and eventually you remove these gloves and use the magic without learning them, right? Issei nodded in understanding as he spoke. Yep, that was how I learned most of my magic. Dragon fire magic was easier since it was ingrained into my memory, the others I had to learn from scratch. Issei continued. I never actually wanted to learn holy light magic, but since I wished to create a new magic, something Arcadia has never seen. Willow nodded in agreement. Issei soon took a seat and Willow sat beside him. Kid, what you are trying to do? It's ambitious, I would advise you to slow down. Issei nodded in understanding and responded. Yes, sensei. Willow then looked at the boy and asked something he never thought she was going to ask. Issei, may I ask you a question? Issei looked at her and nodded. Where are your parents? And what happened to them? Issei widened at the question he asked. He never thought that she would be asking that question to him of all things. Excuse me, Issei spoke with a confused tone, hoping that Willow does not intend to know about his past. He wanted to bury his past behind. That was one of the reasons he left Earth. I wish to know about your parentage, young man. You possess exceptional skills in magic, and you have a powerful sword. I wish to know, who were your parents back in your homeworld? Willow asked with a curious tone. Issei could only look away in response. I don't wish to talk about it. Issei's cold tone caught the one-winged angel off guard. Willow then asked, but why? Issei shook his head and remained silent. Willow had an idea what must have happened and spoke with a sigh. Very well, I don't intend to force you to speak anything. Maybe once you are comfortable enough, you can tell me. Issei looked at her and spoke. I am sorry. Willow shook her head and spoke. No, it's alright. Willow soon got up and spoke. Anyways, we should begin our training. Issei looked at her and nodded. He soon summoned Excalibur, which released flames and a golden glow when Issei brought it out. He held it in one hand. Issei soon twirled the blade and held it in front of him and used his two hands. He was in an offensive stance. Willow smirked, bringing out Masamune as she got into her stance. The duo charged towards each other and engaged in a sword, which resulted in a massive explosion of pressure which destroyed the surrounding area. 2 hours later, Issei was on the ground, tired, breathing heavily. Willow stood on him with her blade next to him as she spoke. You did well. You fought for 2 hours straight. Willow appreciated his tenacity and capability. Issei's strength was really something that she can't ignore, and like Juniper's son, he was persistent. Issei managed to get up and spoke while breathing heavily. Even then, I couldn't land a single hit on you. Willow nodded in understanding as she spoke with a serious tone. The next time I want you to train with me in your balance breaker state, got it? Issei looked at her and nodded. He was soon helped by her as he dispelled Excalibur and reached her level. She then spoke with a smile. Anyway, you should get going, you only have a few minutes to your class, Issei nodded as he teleported back to his room. Willow sat down, as soon enough Juniper teleported in the field as she spoke. So how's the kid? Willow looked at her and spoke. Persistent, that is all I can say about him, Juniper nodded in agreement with a smile, as she continued. And from what I hear he wishes to even complete in the Academy of Technology, am I right? Willow nodded in agreement. Juniper then spoke while rubbing her chin. From what I hear, he will have to complete his military once he is done graduating, Willow nodded as she spoke with a neutral tone. And he will be in one academy for 3 years, and the next 3 years he will be in a different academy. How will he manage? Juniper had to agree with her friend's concerns. Getting 2 degrees, followed by a year in the military service can be quite taxing. Even for someone like him. I'd say he can manage, it is his choice on what he needs to do in Arcadia, although I would state that he should focus on one side of his career while also learning technology, since he seems to be clearly interested in that field, Juniper suggested, to which Willow nodded, to which she nodded in agreement. Willow then added to her point. Maybe Jade or Aqua can help in his interest in technology, so I'd say that may work, Juniper nodded in agreement as she spoke. That would work, I'll let Aqua know about this and see if he is interested, Willow nodded as she soon flew off and Juniper teleported back to handle the Empire. Scene change. Magic Academy, 10 AM. Okay, now we try to add an element of rock to the element of fire. The spell may have a small chance of misfiring, but if you are able to do it properly, you should be able to handle it without a problem. The woman pointed to the smart board. She was a young woman with long red hair and blue eyes that reaches down her hips, styled normally with a single strand of her bangs braided, as well as the sides of her hair pulled back and held together with a small basic clip. She is also particularly known for having a very well-developed and curvaceous figure. This was Lilith Asami. Any questions? None of the students responded, to which Lilith spoke with a smile. That is all. Then Lilith got up and left the smart board, leaving Nyx and Issei amongst themselves. Say, what were you doing so early in the morning? Issei looked at her and spoke. I was training myself in holy light magic. It would allow me to deal with the upcoming semester examinations. Nyx nodded. She had heard of the semester examinations where the candidate would have to develop a magic that they have never used at all during their classes. That is good anyways. What do you think the factions back home would be doing? Issei looked at her and spoke with a shrug. Don't know, don't care. If anything, the girls might be sucking up to die just like they always do. Nyx nodded in agreement, remembering on how Issei talked about Ingvild. She frowned, remembering the Leviathan descendant. Speaking of which, I wonder, did they bother finding out about your existence or not, like you, me, or Hades disappearing? Issei responded to her with a mocking tone. Even if they did, they wouldn't find us here. From what Juniper told me, Arcadia is far, far away from Earth. It would take them years if they even wished to locate us. Nyx nodded in agreement. She knew one thing, that if the factions chose to attack Arcadia, it would be nothing short of a death sentence, since Arcadia's power far eclipsed that of the factions. There are many people that would make short work of the faction leaders, and with Great Red in office against them, they wouldn't stand a chance. Anyways, what magic are you planning to perform for the upcoming semester examinations? Nyx responded to Issei as she spoke. I was thinking of combining fire and dark magic. I wonder how it would work, or I can even use hypnosis magic. Nyx started to think too for a moment, remembering on how easily she was able to mind control Ingvild without a problem. Issei then spoke. But how will you use hypnosis magic? Like, what are you going to do with it? Nyx pondered for a moment. Even she was unable to know what she will do with the magic. She wondered if the panel would allow her to do it. Either way, there was still quite a while before the semester examinations begin. While they were walking towards their next class, they crossed paths with Aqua Arc. She had gotten a message from her mother to see if Issei was interested in technology. Hyoudou, Nyx, do you two have a minute? Aqua asked with a gentle tone, to which the duo nodded. They soon followed her to her office. She soon settled down and looked at Issei and asked, can I ask you a question? Aqua looked at the two, to which Issei nodded. Aqua then asked, do you wish to join the Academy of Technology as well? Issei was surprised at first along with Nyx, however they soon realized that their mother must have told them that as well. The only people that knew of this were Willow and Juniper. I do, Professor Arc. I do. Aqua nodded as she looked at Nyx as she responded. I don't, Professor Arc. Aqua nodded again as she spoke to Issei and asked with concern. How will you manage? I mean, don't get me wrong, Hyoudou. But you are handling 2 academies, unless you are ready. I would advise against this. Hyoudou. Issei understood what she meant. Handling 2 academies at the same time would be pressurizing even for someone like him. He had to handle Willow's training, coupled with the classes here would break anyone. Professor Arc, is there anything that can be done to help with my situation? I mean, there has been people that have managed 2 academies at the same time, right? Aqua nodded in agreement as she responded, yes, there have been people in the past. Then why can't I? I can handle the pressure that would come with it. I can manage, I have been managing training with Willow-sensei and handling my classes at the same time. I can take care. Professor Arcadia looked at him and sighed, his stubbornness is almost on par with her younger brother John. She couldn't change his mind and she never intended to do so. She was more or less curious on how Issei would handle the mess that would come with handling the pressure of 2 academies. Very well, I won't stop you. However, I do have a small request. Please, would you accept this? This will help you for your upcoming examination in the Academy of Technology. Issei pondered on what she would be stating as Issei spoke. Tell me, what is the matter? Aqua looked at him and spoke. Her name is Jade Arc, she is my younger sister. But she is the smartest sister amongst all of us. No, I dare say she is the smartest amongst us, all sisters. Issei was surprised by this, with Nyx being even more surprised, to which Aqua continued, she will help you train in whatever is needed. Do you want her to help you? I am not sure. Will she be alright with helping someone whom she does not know well? Issei's words made Aqua smile, as she responded, she has agreed to this, she will let you know on her scroll when she would take a class. So what do you say, Hyoudou? Issei pondered for a moment as Nyx spoke. I think you should accept the offer. Nyx looked at Issei as she continued, one of the smartest is training you two for the examination. I would take this in an instant if I were you. Issei looked at Aqua and responded with a serious tone. I don't mind having her to teach me. No, I would love if she was the one to help me with this. Aqua beamed at this as she spoke. Great, I will let her know anyway. You two will be serving military for a year once your graduation is done. It is Arcadia law to do so, alright. Issei and Nyx nodded as Aqua spoke with a gentle tone. You two may leave, thank you for your time, Hyoudou, Nyx. The duo soon said their goodbyes to their professor as she called her mother and told her the news. Yes, Mother. Hyoudou accepted being trained. Let Jade know about this as well. Aqua disconnected the call as she went back correcting her students' assignment sheets as she needed to check them as well. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Concept Issei and Chibi Arcadia Issei working together to torment I. Dorms, 6:30 p.m. Issei and Nyx managed to reach their dorms. They had settled on the couch at this point as they were watching some television. They were interested in the anime of this world, since Earth had different anime. This world had a different set of anime, as opposed to Drag Sopal which existed on their Earth. In this it is called Dragon Ball Z, and its sequel Dragon Ball Super. Hey Nyx, wanna watch some anime with me? Nyx looked at Issei for a moment, pondering on what she wanted to watch, as she responded, sure, but shouldn't you be working on the magic you have been for a while now? Nyx asked with a surprised tone, to which Issei shook his head and responded, not now, I will work on that later. I mean, I still have a few months before I completely learn this, plus I haven't been having a breakthrough, so I am uncertain whether I will be able to do it or not. Nyx sighed. She looked at Issei and cupped his face towards her and spoke. Be patient, it takes time to create an original spell, something no one has ever achieved before, and from what you are able to work with, you are doing quite well even if you did not have a breakthrough. Nyx soon separated from him and looked at Issei with a smile. She believed in him no matter what happened. Issei nodded and spoke with a grin. Then I will work even harder. Nyx happily nodded in response, as suddenly the doorbell rang. Issei and Nyx looked at each other, with Issei asking, did you order something? Nyx shook her head in denial as Issei walked to the door and opened it. You must be Issei Hyoudou, right? Issei looked at the girl that had spoken to him. She was described to be a tall woman with short dark yellow hair and green eyes. She wears a black long-sleeved shirt, outfitted with a red sleeveless shirt that looks to be made out of metal. Top it off with a white corset and belts wrapped around it. She also wears brown gloves, a green cape and skirt. Finally, she wears black pants and dark brown boots. Who even are you? This is the first time I am seeing you. The woman realized this and internally blamed Aqua for not telling more about her. She had to introduce herself. My name is Jade Arc. Aqua must have told you about me, right? It is nice to finally properly meet you in person. Issei realized who she was. He had only properly met 3 of the Arc sisters so far, not considering Jade herself, that being Olivia, who was the one to take them a tour across all academies, and he met Bianca during the time he was getting to know those from the military, including the infamous fight that had happened between John and Scarlet. And finally Aqua, the Arc sister he interacts almost on a daily basis, since she is his teacher. Aside from that, he is aware of the rest of the Arc family, thanks to talking with Juniper, Olivia or Aqua. Oh, welcome, Jade, or should I call you Miss Arc? Jade shook her head and responded, please call me Jade. Issei nodded as he spoke. Please come in, Jade. Jade stepped inside, removing her boots outside the door, and Issei introduced her to Nyx. Meet Nyx, the primordial goddess of darkness. Nyx greeted Jade with a smile, to which Jade returned it with a smile of her own. Anyways, Issei, sorry, can I call you Issei if that is alright? Issei nodded as he spoke. Sure, why not? Jade responded with a smile as she asked. Anyways, Issei, what I was going to ask you was that, do you have a plan to prepare for the academy examination? Issei thought for a moment and spoke. I have a small idea. I want to make 2 twin revolvers. Jade looked at Issei for a moment and responded. Okay. What else? Issei thought for a moment yet again as he continued. And I was thinking of using bullets based on my fire magic that would create blasts as hot as the sun. Jade was baffled by this. So far there are metals that can withstand the heat of the sun, no matter what happens. Issei, what you are saying, it's impossible. The metal that would at best be hot enough to be hard to hold, or worse, it would turn into a mush. The heat of the sun is 5600 Celsius on the surface, and it gets worse when you head to the core, which is 15 million Celsius. Only a few metals can handle that heat. None can be wielded by anyone. Issei realized this and pondered on something that could be done. However, she realized that it was taking longer, causing Jade to twitch her eye in annoyance. She took a deep breath to calm herself down and spoke. But there is one way we can make a gun similar to that. We have to make our own metal from scratch that has the following properties: high heat resistance, while having coils that can conduct heat of such a temperature. Then we have to make sure that they have a good magic conductivity. And then, Jade is cut off when Issei asks her something. I was thinking maybe we can use a crystal that contains the blasts that would be as hot as sun. It would be in a pocket dimension. And Jade cuts off Issei and exclaims. That's a good idea. Jade then thinks for a moment and responds. But we would still be needing some metal that would prevent any aftershocks. And that would damage the nozzle or the barrel. So those are 2 things we must keep in check. Aside from that, it is not a bad idea. But is there a name you are going to give this project? Jade asked with curiosity. She knew that Issei was quite adept with magic, however she wanted to see his technological prowess. I was thinking, Project Honkai. Jade nodded in acceptance. She was satisfied by the name, as she then asked, are you planning to extend this project in the future? Issei looked at her and gave a nod. Issei then spoke. If this project is successful, I am planning to make 12 others like the ones I have. Different capabilities, although I haven't given thought into the future plan, since I haven't even thought of the design. Jade nodded in acceptance as she spoke. Very well, I will help you in this case, but everything you are doing will be done by you, is that understood? Issei nodded as she spoke with a serious tone. In the academy entrance exam, you will be dealing with a panel of judges which will judge your project. It will be in 3 months from now. I expect you to work hard on your project, and yes, magic is allowed for this as well. However, there must be technological aspects as well, hence why I asked you to develop your own metal. Issei nodded as he spoke. Yes, Jade. Jade then responded with a smile. Well then, Issei, I will take my leave. Jade spoke as she walked towards the door. She soon spoke. Bye, Issei. Bye. Nyx both responded with their goodbyes as Issei sat down on the couch with Nyx as he wondered what design he would use for the revolvers. Nyx looked at him and noted that she would support him in any way she can. Scene change. In the DxD world. Underworld, 8 p.m. Surziches looked from the outside of Lilith. There have been no trace of Issei, Nyx or Hades. They have disappeared without a trace. He frowned, knowing 2 of them leaving can pose problems, especially Hades and Nyx, both of whom have been problems to the factions in the past. Hades had his fair share of crimes against them, his involvement of working with the Chaos Brigade, as well as him attacking his sister's peerage using Samel. He needed to face punishment, but he just disappeared. He was worried that he would attack them in the future. As for Nyx, she kidnapped the Leviathan descendant, Ingvild Leviathan. Her actions were frowned, especially in the underworld. The good thing was that Dai rescued her and saved her, while his brother Issei only wanted to hog the credit. Surziches frowned, remembering the disgraceful brother of Issei. A part of him wanted to deal with him for being perverted towards his sister. He wanted to kill him, but he was a human that actually was nothing but harmless, so he was not a threat. Despite this, he really hated him. However, despite this, he could care less if Issei were to be missing. If anything, he was happy that he was dead. He was nothing short of a plague. Suddenly, a call came from Azazel as he spoke. Anything, Azazel? Azazel's voice spoke from the other side. Nothing. It felt like they was gone for a very long time there. As no trace left behind, Surziches became even more angry as a vein popped from his head. He took a deep breath to calm himself as he spoke. What about Issei? Any trace of him? Azazel responded with a neutral tone. Why do you ask for him? Shouldn't you be happy that he was gone? Surziches gave a sigh and responded. No, Dai is asking for his brother. He still worries for where he is. Azazel nodded. Dai is a good brother, as opposed to his glory-hogging brother. Azazel then spoke. In that case, we will locate him. However, our first priority is between Hades or Nyx. Surziches nodded in understanding as he continues. From what Zeus has told me, he has approved of the relationship between Athena and Dai. Surziches beamed at this and responded with a smile. That's good news. Soon enough the 2 will get married, although, we will do the marriage of his current girls with Dai first. Azazel nodded in agreement as he spoke. We shall, anyway. I will get back to locating the 3 of them. Azazel cut off the communication as Surziches looked at the city. His mood had become better since the Greek faction will be much involved with the alliance. Scene change. In Arcadia. Outlands, 9:30 p.m. Outlands, a place where only certain people that have harmed Arcadia have sent, a hellish place that only housed the worst of the worst people. Amidst the area, there was a huge mansion that was floating on a rock. There was several floating rocks. This was the base of a certain someone who was prestigious, but he unfortunately fell from grace. The person was monitoring Issei and Nyx from some spies in Arcadia. He came to know of these two as well. He wanted them by their side. This was Vlad Ark. He was described to be a man whose facial features give of the sinister look. He has a pale complexion with wide eyes and long white hair. He braided it and is wrapped around his neck. He wears robes with a different assortment of colors, which are that of royalty, and has many gold ornaments placed around it. The man wears purple cloth around his neck and purple rope tied around his outfit. He wears black pants and boots that have a gold pattern on it. He also wraps a bluish oriel cape and has some sort of tail sticking out of his back. Vlad was once a member of the Ark family. He was the creator of the infamous Black Arms. It was the family's own personal army they managed and fund, since this part of the Ark family has a city all they command. It was created by the time the first Ark siblings were born. Originally it served as a good cause, to fight against supernatural threats in the city. But Vlad wanted more and manipulated the family into giving him the power. Thus leading to a conflict between the Arks. In his defeat, what's left of the Black Arms were exiled, same goes for Vlad. But during that time, he continues making plans against the Arks. He had already met someone, and he had been fast-forwarding the plans, and he was brought into attention albeit after a while thanks to his spies, Issei and Nyx, both of whom had garnered their interest. I will need to know more about them, especially this boy named Issei Hyoudou. His power can be used for the destruction of Arcadia. But, we need to find a way to bring him in. Vlad spoke with a thought. He knew Issei's ability the very first day. He was watching the boy's capabilities. He wanted to get him to his side. Soon we will meet. I wonder whether I can bring you to my side or by force. Vlad spoke with a sinister look as he decided to continue to monitor Issei. He was going to get him to his side one way or another. Chapter 4. Technology creation. The next day, Orms, 7 p.m. Issei was in his room. He was already on the laptop that was designing the revolver of Project Honkai. He had created a 3D model of the revolver. He was almost done with the 3D modeling part of the revolver. Issei wore a white shirt which had the Arcadia label on it and some stripped shorts. He also wore white socks. He was soon greeted by Nyx, who had come in with a glass tray and some snacks. She herself wore a red sleeveless shirt and a white knee-length jeans. She additionally had her hair tied in a ponytail. They were wearing their home clothing. Here, I brought you some snacks. Nyx had kept the snacks on the table, along with the juice tray. She looked at Issei and spoke. Ice. Issei looked at her and responded, yes. Nyx looked at the revolvers and spoke. Why did you choose to use 2 revolvers? Like, there are many other weapons that could be much more, and you are not a person that uses far-range combat. You are a close combatant. Issei looked at her. He turned his chair, which was a rotating chair, towards her, and spoke with a smile. I always loved heroes which wielded revolvers. One of my favorite was a white-haired eye-patch-wearing man that shot his enemies with a revolver. Issei spoke, remembering the anime he used to watch. It was the only thing that gave him comfort at a time like this, when he had no one. Watching anime was something he enjoyed. Back then, I wanted Azazel or Michael to help me create a revolver that would help me protect my family back then. I was a naive idiot who thought that if I helped others, they would notice me. Alas, they were too blinded by their lies. Issei shook his head, remembering on how foolish he was in the past. So that I could let you perform your deeds, you disgusting liar. Get out of my sight. Issei looked down, remembering Azazel's words. He soon remembered Michael's words. I am sorry, but I am not interested in helping someone like you. I would advise you to leave. Issei became even more sadder remembering the past. Soon enough, Nyx came up to his face and got his attention. She spoke with a gentle tone. I don't remember the past. They are selfish idiots who only care about themselves. Remember why you came to Arcadia in the first place. Nyx brought him closer to herself and spoke. You came to start a new life here, away from those that wanted to only see you suffer, that never actually cared for you. I mean, look here, not even a few months in, and many of Arcadia knows about you and your capabilities. You have 3 mentors that are actually helping you achieve your dreams, and once you are done, I am pretty sure you can settle down. Even your family is learning something or the other, both Macaria and Melino being in Strixhaven Academy, Hades in Magacaline Academy, and finally Persephone has also joined an Academy of Carano office, and Great Red have been routinely visiting you whenever they can, and they are supporting you in any way they can. They are busy getting along with the other dragons as well. From what I hear, they are learning more magic in that world. Nyx spoke with a tone of hope as Issei became almost teary-eyed. He looked away as he spoke to Nyx. Thank you, Nyx, it means a lot. Nyx smiled in response. It was a genuine smile. It was no secret the primordial goddess fell for the Red Dragon Emperor. He was kind, compassionate and understanding. He understood why Nyx kidnapped Ingvild. She was alone for a very long time and only wanted someone to talk to. She eventually did find someone, not Ingvild but Issei, and she couldn't be any more grateful to fate for bringing a man like Issei in her life. Nyx started to approach even closer to Issei. Her eyes suddenly started to close as her lips were being brought closer to Issei, who was himself in a trance. He did not seem to move. However, just as they were about to kiss. Ding, dong. Someone had rang the bell, causing the two to snap out of their trance. Issei immediately fixed his face as he wiped out the tears as he shouted to the one outside, allowing them to hear it. Humming, Issei headed inside the bathroom to wash his face while Nyx cleared the table. She had a feeling that it was either Jade or Willow that must have shown up for training. She sighed, they had unintentionally ruined a good moment. Jade had entered inside the room. She had already removed her boots like she usually does. She sat inside Issei's room with her legs crossed, with Issei sitting on the moving chair. Soon, Nyx comes inside with a juice glass as she accepted it without a problem. Thanks. Nyx responded with a smile. Jade then looked at Issei and asked, have you designed a model for the revolver that we are creating? Issei nodded and showed her the 3D design that he had made. Jade seemed intrigued by the model he was creating. She liked the model style that Issei used. Interesting, so the crystal that was planned to be used for the magic will be at the center, right? Aside from that, it is a regular revolver, right? Issei nodded in response as he spoke. Yes, that is what my intention is, to make a revolver that would perform the necessary attacks, that is would have this as the first weapon under the Project Honkai, that I want to make a gun that can fire blasts as hot as the sun. Jade nodded in understanding as she spoke with a serious tone. I would recommend using iron as a base metal for a gun like this, however if I were you I would say we need to use something called as a nanomachine. Have you heard of it? Issei nodded as he spoke. Yes, they are the size of nanometers, which is 10 9 meters. They are so small that it is impossible to see one unless they are grouped. Silicon is the most valid choice for making nanomachines, although there have been instances of gold, silver or copper being used for it. Jade smiled in response. He was well defined in some aspects of technology. That is good, and silicon is the most used material when it comes to technology, because its property of electrical conductivity can be used with other metals like iron or non-metals like carbon polymer. It can be used to replicate itself when damaged, and we may need a replicating property if the gun's blasts do end up damaging the gun itself. Additionally, we need to even make some iron to add with the silicon, increasing its heating structure, Jade explained as Issei took notes. He knew that this would be the base he would have to work with. She was making Issei explain on what he needed to do. Come with me, Issei, we will fetch some materials needed for the project. Jade spoke, to which Issei seemed to be surprised as he responded. Alright now? Issei asked with a tone filled with surprise as Jade spoke with a tone which did not show any importance. She believed in doing her work as soon as possible, since she has experience handling projects that take longer than just a few weeks. Yeah? I'd say we should at the very least gather the materials right now unless you have something better to do. Issei shook his head and responded. No, not really. Issei got up from his seat as he continued. Well then, let's go. Scene change. Jade's laboratory, 8 p.m. Jade started the lights of the laboratory. Issei was amazed seeing how the laboratory was designed. It had several machines and other devices attached to it. Additionally, it also seemed to be a futuristic lab. There were 2 chairs that had a surgical device on them, with a glass door which had the markings, genetics, written on it. Welcome to my lab, Jade spoke with a grin. She was proud of what she has accomplished. Each of the Arc sister was capable in some field. She was capable in the scientific field. Take a seat nearby, I will fetch some nanomatching devices that should give you an idea on what you need to do. Issei nodded and did so. Just as Jade was about to leave, she gave a warning. Oh, and do not touch anything, understood? Issei nodded when Jade put an emphasis on do not. He did not know what would have happened, but he listened to her regardless. Messing with anything she had developed was never his intention. Jade headed to a different section of her lab. She had to find some machines that were developed with nanotechnology. Jade entered into a section of her laboratory. The section had several cabinets and other devices on top of the cabinets, like microscopes and other machines. Additionally, there were several screens that displayed the laboratory status and other diagrams meant to display data, like bar graphs and pie charts. It should be here somewhere, Jade spoke as she searched the cabinets, looking for any of the nanotechnology she created. She eventually found a small camera that was designed with the same nanotechnology that was needed for Project Honkai. The camera had 2 buttons, meant for a certain purpose. I think this should do. Jade took the machine and headed to where Issei was seated. She was happy that he listened to her and did not try anything, when he easily could have taken some stuff without her knowing. Jade can easily identify if her stuff was taken, since she would notice that there was something wrong with the system or the laboratory. Sorry it took me a while, Issei looked at her and responded. No, it's alright. So this lab, do you always work every single day and do your experiments? Issei asked, to which Jade responded with a smile. I do, this is something I love, we each have our passions and interests. Jade's smile turns into a wry smile. Well, however, in my case, sometimes I do get carried away and cause problems. Jade spoke while rubbing her head, remembering the problems she has caused when she gets too obsessed with her research. Issei sweat drops upon hearing this, as Jade explains. Here, this is a simple camera made of nanotechnology. Can you see the small machines that are present inside? Jade touched a button on the camera, revealing the machines moving away from a small distance. In time, only a small camera lens was revealed, with a different button being on the other side. This camera's metal part was made out of nanotechnology, or to be precise, nanotechnology made of iron. Normally, I would recommend using silicon or steel, an alloy, which would be useful for such purposes, but in your case, I would prefer if you use a combination of silicon, steel, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Issei nodded as he checked the camera. He soon clicked the button, and the camera reverted to its old state. Anyways, I will lead you to the necessary stuff that you will need. On every alternate day, you and I will be heading here to work on the nanotechnology. Is that understood? Issei nodded as Jade smiled. She and Issei soon headed to a darker section of the lab. It had several screens as well as operating tables. With that, there were several places that glass doors leading to other materials, and an entrance to that location. Follow me, Jade motioned to Issei. As he did so, she opened a drawer at the top and removed some silicon and spoke. This is silicon, the material you would be needing. For the gun, it is one of the most valuable non-metals in the technology industry. We have a lot of it, so you needn't worry about running out, okay? Issei nodded as she spoke. The gases in the tubes. Jade points to the tubes present behind the glass door. Issei looked at it and spoke. Yeah? Jade then speaks. It has oxygen, hydrogen and carbon needed for this. You will be doing this yourself. I will help you, you needn't worry. Issei nodded as Jade spoke with a smile. From the 2 days, and once in every 2 days, we will be heading to the lab to perform the lab experiment, okay? Issei nodded to her, and they soon decided to head back. Jade made sure to lock her laboratory. Issei then walked to his dorm, while Jade teleported back to her room in the castle. He was greeted by Nyx, who asked, "So how did it go?" Issei nodded as he spoke. "Once in every 2 days, I will be heading to Jade's lab to do the work, so I will be working on the gun until then. I will also be working on the magic spell that I wanted to create my very own spell." Nyx nodded in understanding. She was happy for Issei, who was working hard. Soon enough, the duo decided to have their dinner and head to sleep. Tomorrow was another day that they could work on. Scene change. Outlands, 12 p.m. Vlad Ark was monitoring his army. He knew that the time will soon come for his comeback into the Ark clan. His goal was to gain even more power. He failed to do so once, but there is going to be even more opportunities. He looked at his soldiers, all of whom seemed to be dressed in top military gear. They had a light gray faceplate with black-colored military gear. There was also partial gray coloring inside their black-colored gear, which was their inner shirt. These were the Black Arm soldiers. Vlad, however, did not seem satisfied. Their forces were running low. They needed more soldiers if they have to make a comeback. "It's not enough, I need more allies," Vlad spoke with a growl. He was not happy with how low their forces are. Additionally, he knew Arcadia was well protected. They needed to find a way in if they had to succeed in their goals of ruling Arcadia. "Perhaps I could be of some help," someone spoke from the shadows, as Vlad looked at the shadow. He had an idea, but he never expected who it was. No way. Vlad saw the person who it was from the shadows. The man showed himself to be a blonde-haired man whom Vlad recognized. He was in complete denial on who it was none other than the Empress's husband himself, Nicholas Ark. Vlad was fearful. He was unaware on what Nicholas was here for. He did not know what his intentions were. He knew that everything he was going to do was all going to go down. He feared what Nicholas intends to do so. Vlad then spoke with a fake smile. "So what are you going to do? Let the Empress know of my intentions, of my actions, put a stop to me permanently?" Vlad looked at Nicholas, who only laughed in response. Vlad clicked his tongue in frustration as he spoke. "What's so funny, Nicholas?" Nicholas stopped laughing as he spoke. "Did you really think that I am here to report this to Juniper? Like, will she know about my actions? She knows nothing of me being in the Outlands and not going to lie. Locating you was a pain." Nicholas walked across the room where Vlad was present. Vlad was stunned, unable to process what just happened. He needed to understand what Nicholas's intentions were. "Juniper is a fool. She has no idea that I am here to lend a helping hand to you. She still thinks that I am in love with her." Nicholas chuckles at this before he speaks. "The truth is, I never really loved her, I only used her as a way to enter into the Ark family." "So you're telling me that you are not someone that got lost into Arcadia and found your way here?" Nicholas only laughed at Vlad's words and responded with a sinister grin. "No, Vlad, that was never a thing that happened. I was no traveler. If anything, I managed to find my way from the Four Kingdoms to here. It took me months, but my research paid off. I managed to find this place, and from here on out I was relatively able to find this place and I even came to know who lead them. The Arcs Nicholas spoke with a sinister grin, before his face changed to anger. But my family, they were satisfied with what they had, and they never desired more. I hate those that are satisfied with their lives. I want more power, Vlad, that is why I wish to propose something. Nicholas looked at Vlad, who was sort of convinced at this point, decided to hear him out. What do you want? Nicholas looked at Vlad, with Nicholas speaking with a grin. I propose an alliance, you and I both desire the same, the complete and utter control of Arcadia and the whole world. You may not be able to achieve this desire. But you and I, if we are able to do it together, we can gain the entire control of the entirety of Arcadia. Your powers and army coupled with my charisma and manipulation can get many to our side. Think Vlad, this is an opportunity that you wouldn't think twice to accept. Think Vlad, I am willing to give you a hand to help you achieve your goals. Nicholas spoke to Vlad as he spoke. What can you offer to me, Nicholas? Vlad was still partially unconvinced as Nicholas threw a device on the table, which was a small USB, as Vlad asked. What is inside of this? Nicholas walked towards it and spoke. A list, Vlad, a list of arcs that are discontent with the jobs that were given to them. They are all working for me. I promised them great power. I just need to let them know that you are working for us. Vlad was surprised by this. He took the USB in his hands and looked at it, surprised to see what it is. He checked a list for himself using a computer and was surprised by the list. It was a lot of arcs. However, he still had a question. How did Nicholas came to know of this place? How did you even know of this place? Nicholas looked at Vlad and spoke. It was relatively easy. I heard two of your spies talking with each other, and I decided to learn more. If there is anything I am good with, it is research. That was how I was able to find Arcadia. Vlad nodded as Nicholas spoke while putting his hand forward. Do you accept making a partnership, Vlad? Vlad looked at Nicholas and grinned. I am in Nicholas, although I have a question. How did you manage to make Juniper fall for you? Nicholas looked at Vlad as if he was a fool as he spoke. It was relatively easy. I put up a front of a false charade towards Juniper and made her fall in love with him. Even after being a dragon, she failed to see that I was turning many of her kingdom against her and her family. Shame that she failed to see it. Nicholas spoke with a dark grin, as Vlad was also surprised. Nicholas was deceitful and cunning, as well as he had no regard for anyone but himself. He looked at Nicholas and spoke. I see. Well then, we can begin preparing for the chaos that would plague Arcadia, and one day, we will conquer and rule Arcadia. It will be ours. Vlad spoke with a sinister grin, as Nicholas asked of Vlad. So where can we begin, Vlad? Vlad responded with a smile, as he decided to make some plans to make Arcadia fall apart. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Issei creating a space station. A few weeks later, Jade's laboratory, 9:30 p.m. Issei were working on the element. It took them several days to find the right composition of elements, but he managed to do so. This caused something else to happen. After days of research and weeks of testing and application, he was able to design the first nanomatching metal. He managed to combine them successfully. Jade helped him in any way she could. She was happy to help and was encouraging Issei in making it successful. Most of the time, the elements just exploded in his face, almost causing him to scar. There were times that Issei wanted to give up since he was getting nowhere, but Jade was not having any of it. She along with Nyx kept encouraging him to keep researching. He will one day have a breakthrough. They believed in him. They made sure he would complete his work one day and would come with a breakthrough. Jade taught him everything she knew about the materials he was using to create the nanomatching metal, and Issei couldn't be any more grateful for a better teacher. She was patient and made sure to correct any misconceptions Issei had for him. After all, she used to supervise him every time he was in the laboratory. Eventually he had a breakthrough and he successfully managed to make the nanomatching. Yes, I did it, Jade. Come here. Jade rushed inside. She wondered what had happened. She exclaimed in response. Issei, what happened? You screamed, and Jade looked at what Issei had shown. As she looked at the nanomatching that Issei created, it didn't take a second for her also to beam in happiness. You did it, Issei. Congratulations, you found a new alloy that would combine several non-metals. One metal and one alloy. Jade spoke, as Issei remembered the metals and non-metals he had combined, that being silicon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon and fluorine, and from the metals titanium and one alloy, that being steel. So what are you going to name this new nanomatching metal of yours? Jade asked with intrigue, to which Issei responded. I was thinking, Salium. What do you think? Jade looked at the metal. It was described to be a metal that had a red crystal at its center and two dirty yellow semicircles, which were broken at the ends. It was connected with a ring surrounding the red spherical crystal and 4 spaces. It is alright. I was expecting something gold related, but this would do anyway. We can begin making the gun. Issei nodded as he decided to now find a way to incorporate the nanomatching metal into making a revolver. However, just as he was about to do so, he had received a call. Jade looked at him and asked, who is it? Issei looked at the contact and it was revealed to be Willow. He then spoke. Willow-sensei. Jade was surprised, as today was not supposed to be a training day. Issei looked at Jade, who was as surprised as he was. But today is your day with the gun, why would Willow call you? Issei shook his head and responded. I have no clue, Jade. Since we are done with the medal, we might as well go and check what she wants. Jade nodded, as she and Issei both left to head to where Willow was waiting for them. Scene change. Arcadian Park, Arcadia capital, 10 p.m. Willow was standing across a park, she was waiting for Issei. She knew today was his creation of the medal with Jade, however it was important, there was someone curious who wanted to meet Issei Hyoudou. Soon enough, Issei came alongside with Jade. The duo were surprised by Willow's presence. She did not wear what she usually did. She wore a white shirt, which had freckles on its sleeves, and a jeans, which were rugged. Additionally, she wore sports shoes. Issei, you came. Sorry for calling you like this, when you were busy. Issei shook his head and responded. That is not an issue, but why did you even call me? Like did something bad happen? Issei asked with concern, to which Willow spoke with a smile. Not really, I wanted you to meet a friend of mine. She was really curious to meet you for a very long time, however she did not get time to meet due to her work. Issei nodded as he asked with curiosity as he asked, who? Willow spoke with a smile, as she responded, you can come now, and Willow's words made Jade realize who she is. She was a friend of her mother, and a good family friend, while Issei was confused. The woman who showed up was of Asian descent. She had dusky rose hair held in a bun by a grey band and pink eyes. She wore a long green dress with dark green around the shoulders. It has long flared sleeves that have cutouts on the shoulders with a large band of plum purple on the cuffs. She wears a pair of black ballet flats and a pink sash around her waist. Hello Issei Hyoudou, it is finally nice to meet you in person. My name is Ren, one of the members of the Big Three and the matriarch of Clan Ren. It is a pleasure to meet you, Issei Hyoudou. The secretary Issei had heard of the Big Three and knew of them very well, but he had never known Ren. He respectfully bowed to her and spoke. It is nice to meet you, Mrs. Ren. And chuckled at his behavior. He seemed like a respectful boy in her eyes as she spoke. Two things, one, call me and two, you needn't be so formal with me. Willow told me how much of a good student you are, and I would be taking up training for the time being. Issei was surprised by this as he asked, why did something happen, Willow-sensei? Willow looked at him and gave him a look of slight sadness. I have some business that I need to at the Four Kingdoms. Juniper has asked me to spy for her and to let her know of the developments that are happening there. Issei was surprised at first, but he nodded after a while. He understood that she must be busy there and has some work left. He then spoke. I understand, Willow-sensei. Willow looked at him and spoke, but worry not, I will be back after a few months until I am away and will take up your training. Issei nodded in understanding. He was a bit saddened that she had to leave for the Four Kingdoms, a place even he was not a big fan of, considering he was aware of their situation. He knew Arcadia must keep tabs on the Four Kingdoms as they needed to know the situation there. She was a spy for the Four Kingdoms. Take care. Issei looked at her and nodded before she flew off using her one wing and then looked at Issei and spoke. Well, I may not be as strong as Willow, but I am a capable sword master. I will teach you anything you want me to. Young man, just let me know if you have any difficulties and I will help you there, okay? Issei looked at her and nodded as he spoke. I will be under your care. Anna nodded with a smile. She was ready to train the boy in whatever she can. She already heard of the boy's achievements. She was going to make sure he is trained properly and becomes one of Arcadia's strongest. Chapter 5. Samurai Sword Training. The next day, Arcadia Training Center, Jupiter City, Arcadia, 7 a.m. and was standing in the opposite direction wearing her samurai armor. She was ready to face Issei. She wielded a katana that she held in her left hand, however she was much more calmer. Issei sensed a high level of tranquil aura from her body. Her aura seemed calm, almost serene, like it was composed of no hostility. The reason the training happened early was due to the academy having an holiday. Alright, Issei, we will be learning my sword technique, Knight Nichiryu, and spoke, removing another sword, however its size was smaller than that of a regular katana and meant for close combat. It was a wakizashi. Knight Nichiryu. I have heard of that style's name, although I don't know much, and smiled in response and spoke. You see Issei, Knight Nichiryu. It is a sword style developed in the very early days of Arcadian samurai. I will be teaching you 10 specific sword styles, Issei, so you must learn them proficiently. Issei nodded as she gave a specific book to Issei. This is the Book of 10 Rings. I personally wrote this myself. Once I see what you are capable of myself, read the book whenever you can, alright. Issei accepted the book and kept it in his pocket dimension. He looked at An, who spoke with a serious tone. Now for a fight, I wish to see your skills by myself, and got into her stance. As Issei nodded, he summoned Excalibur in his hands. He charged at An, who easily blocked her strike. Despite this, his strike was quick, with an understanding that Willow trained the boy relentlessly. then pushed him back with her strength, with Issei jumping backwards to avoid a slash she had quickly followed up with right after she pushed him back and, once again, followed up with a strike of her own. She used earth style, using her wakizashi. Since Issei was a close combatant, this would be perfect. She was able to parry Issei's strikes without a problem. She unleashed devastating counterattacks that made Issei more on the defensive, preventing him to focus on the offense. This posed a problem to Issei, as he knew that he could only use more strength if he had to defeat her. Drag, keep boosting my strength and speed and focus it on my hands. Drag nodded as he responded. Understood, partner. And was quick. She sensed a sudden increase in Issei's power. Sensing his strikes becoming faster and stronger and realized that she was being pushed back. She held back against Issei too much. She smirked. She underestimated the boy all too much. She knew that this level of strength was too much for a newbie. However, Issei was no newbie. He was trained by Willow for months. She decided to add a new layer of strength. However, despite this, she did not decide to go all out. Just not yet. Then backflipped, avoiding a slash. She took some distance. Upon realizing that An was about to charge, Issei mentally spoke with instinct. He had a feeling that if he did not defend from the attack, he would take serious damage. And had a thought for a split second. She had to be careful on not killing the boy, especially since he is Willow's student. However, she had faith that she would survive. She decided to see if this boy would survive or not. Drag put all power on defense. Drag understood this, as he responded. Survive this one, you will need everything to save yourself from this strike of hers. Issei saw and charged at him right away, as she unleashed several strikes. He blocked whatever strikes he could, but sadly, the blocking was not enough to protect him from all the attacks. The strikes were quick for anyone to be able to see properly, especially with the naked eye. And stood on the other side, to recover for a quick moment. The stance she used was Void Strike, which was a vigorous technique that uses lightning fast ii strike to cut down any enemy in its path. Though this stance boasts great power, it leaves a greater opening between attacks. Issei staggered on his knees. He was breathing heavily. Had he not put everything on defense, he would be done for. And smiled seeing this. Not many survive her strikes with such prowess. He was a tough kid who survived Willow and her training. She expected this level of ability from him. He quickly used healing magic to recover himself. Oh, you survived good. And praised Issei for his skill. She noticed Issei blocking some of her strikes, which although was successful, failed to block many of her attacks. Issei nodded while maintaining his breath. He decided to take it to the next level. He did not use his balance breaker for a while. Balance breaker, Drag then announced as he shouted. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Issei entered into his balance breaker, which emanated aura across the battlefield, and noted the sudden change in the power level of Issei. She smiled seeing that the boy will be even more challenging from here on out. Show me what you got, Issei, and got into her stance as she was ready for what Issei was going to fight against her. Issei charged at An, who had used fire stance to attack Issei. While she was able to avoid the initial slash courtesy of Issei, she was still able to dodge the attack with relative ease. She also decided to take it to the next level. And was quick and evasive, with Issei himself avoiding her blows. She was having the fight of her life, even when she held back. She immediately switched to lightning stance and unleashed a quick succession of rapid-fire strikes at Issei, who was trying his best to block him, but sadly, he was not able to block all of them. However, he did manage to block more strikes as opposed to when An used Void Strike. The lightning from An's lightning stance made Issei feel electricity inside his body, which almost made him fall, but he was able to recover his balance and stabilize himself. He once again got into his stance, with which he twirled Excalibur once and put it forward. One of his leg was behind while the other was in front. So this balance breaker increases his durability good, and noted with a smile, as she blocked another slash courtesy of Issei. She gracefully was able to put his sword to the ground by her sheer strength using her katana, leaving Issei stunned by her sheer strength. He couldn't deny that An was one of the strongest duelists of all time, as she, like Willow, was able to keep up with her strikes. This made Issei wonder, how strong would Juniper be? If these two are monsters in terms of strength, then he wondered on how powerful the Queen of Arcadia would be, knowing that she was one of the strongest Arcadia has to offer. Then pushed the sword even further down, making Issei unable to even lift the blade. He was struggling in his balance breaker state. And decided to end the fight by using her steel stance, the blade that was the wakizashi. She was ready to strike Issei, ending the match. Unbeknownst to An, however, Issei's strength was increasing over time. He was able to overwhelm and completely catching her off guard. She staggered momentarily and was taken aback. Issei jumped backwards and made some distance from the Arcadian samurai. She was far more capable than she ever was. Then had to give it to Issei. He was a learner and a capable person who in a few months had achieved an ability that many of her samurai brethren would struggle. It is to adapt to any situation and find a counter to it. She was happy to have the boy as a student. She can see why Willow developed a liking to training the student because no matter how harsh the training was, he can still be a capable fighter. Issei once again charged at blinding speeds, something that was noticed by her. The capabilities he showed was surprising to her as well. And blocked the strike. As she looked at Issei with a serious look, it was time to go close to her full strength. Picking Issei behind, she started to use even more magic, which she only did when she used one of her strongest stances and a few magic, so as to let Issei used to it, she decided to use even more magic. Her both blades started to glow, just like it did when she used steel stance, however the light was even more brighter. Issei could sense the magic power emanating from the blades. This was light stance, one of An's strongest stances, and only muttered one word. Issei twirled his blade as he dashed towards An and slashed in an upward manner who only had blocked it with her wakizashi. Issei soon followed up with a side slash, only to be blocked with her other blade. She soon noticed Issei follow up with a different strike, which she blocked with both of her blades. Issei then followed up with a left slash, only for An to evade it and block it with her blade. She managed to also move to the side as she followed up with her strike. Issei ducked to avoid it and blocked an oncoming strike from An. Issei's strength was increasing at a surprising rate, which was something An noticed. She quickly followed up with using an X slash, which he avoided. The slash was powerful enough to completely create a dent on the nearby wall, making Issei momentarily flinch on how powerful An really was. Then put one blade in front of her and dashed towards Issei. Issei jumped back and twirled his blade and followed up with a few of her strikes, which he evaded. He soon followed up with a powerful upper slash, which An used both her katana and wakizashi to block. Not bad, not many are able to keep up with me. Willow has trained you well. Issei smiled in response, happy to have gained some recognition from one of the big three. However, just as the fight was going to continue. Alright, that's enough, a voice called from the side, causing the two to split up and return back to their original positions. They looked at the person who had called them, and this was revealed to be Juniper Arc. The Empress herself had shown up. She was accompanied by two people. Issei and An recognized the first one to be John, however the other, only An was able to recognize. This was Rosemary Arc, the youngest of the Arc siblings. She is described to be a young woman with long dark yellow hair with bangs and green eyes. She wears a long sleeve polo and a black sleeveless polo with yellow lining. She also has a ribbon tied around her neck. She wears a blue and white skirt with a strap wrapped around her right thigh. Is wearing black leggings and golden brown boots. Hey Juniper, been a while. Juniper smiled at her friend as she spoke. You have been improving quite a lot, young man, even able to keep up with An and nodded in agreement as she spoke. He is strong, capable of adapting and learning very quickly, and his strength and speed keeps on increasing. I'd say he would be a capable warrior. It's a good thing I did not bring those for the fight, and commented, to which everyone understood what An was talking about, minus Issei, who asked with a tone of surprise. And, what are you talking about? And looked at him and gave a sweet smile. If I had used the Makloon rings, or if I went all out from the start, this fight would have been over in less than a minute. Issei gulped hearing this, and was also a monster like Willow. He had seen Willow's strength and remembered even she refused to go all out, otherwise the fight would have been over. Oh, cheer up, Issei, the fact that you were able to keep up with An while she was testing your limits is not something to scoff at. Even some of the clan's elites are unable to do so in the kingdom of Kugain, so you should be proud of yourself, young man. For a 19-year-old, you are able to catch up with one of the big three. Juniper spoke with a cheerful tone, making Issei look at her. He had grown a lot stronger than the first time he had reached Arcadia. His sword skills had grown on par with some of the strongest swordsmen in his world. He was able to perform feats that even the sum of swordsmen would struggle. His magic skill has increased a lot, and he also made a literal element that did not exist before. I see, thank you, Empress. Juniper only gave a smile as she spoke. Although, if you wish to keep or reach our level, you need to work harder. Issei looked at her and nodded. He understood about what he needed to do. He will become a successful man in Arcadia. Unbeknownst to Issei, fate had something bigger planned for him. Juniper then looked at him as she spoke, looking at John. Anyways, I was here to let you meet them. I think you know John, right? Issei nodded in understanding, greeting the boy who returned the greeting. As Juniper then spoke, I would like you to meet my daughter Rosemary. Rosemary stepped forward and introduced herself in a nervous tone. Good morning, my name is Rosemary Arc. It is a pleasure to meet you. Secretary Rosemary bowed in front of Issei, who returned the greeting. He then spoke with a smile. Good morning to you too, Rosemary. Rosemary looked at Issei. As she nodded, she then asked Issei. Secretary Issei cuts her off in response. Please call me Issei Rosemary. Rosemary looked at him and gave a smile. Issei, can I meet this drag? Rosemary asked with an innocent tone, to which Issei brought out the boosted gear, who spoke with a serious tone. For hundreds of years, I lay dormant. Who dared decided to wake me up? Drag sees Issei, who speaks. Oh, it's you. What now? Issei sighed at his best friend's antics. He had been watching too much and well, Juniper, John and were chuckling at the Welsh dragon's antics. Rosemary, on the other hand, seemed nervous meeting the dragon whose flames can burn down the souls. The Empress is here and her daughter wants to meet you, try not to scare the kid. Drake realized this and returned back to his normal state as Rosemary introduced herself. Good morning, Drake. My name is Rosemary Ark, it is nice to meet you. Rosemary looked at the boosted gear as he spoke with a grin. This one's respectful, she is a good kid. Rosemary smiled upon the praise as he continued, my name is the White Drake Gotch, the Welsh dragon, and the Red Dragon Emperor, as you know it is also good to meet you kid. Thank you Drake, Rosemary spoke with a tone of gratitude as she asked, is it true? That your flames can burn the souls of your enemy? It is true young one, my flames can burn the souls of even gods. Rosemary became a bit nervous as he then continued, however, it does not affect my former rival Albion, as well as the dragon god's great red in office. I see Rosemary spoke with an understanding tone as even Juniper and John seemed to understand that the flames had limits. They never wanted to ask Issei since they knew that Issei did not intend to harm. But they should have asked Issei about these flames. They had a feeling that Issei was someone he could trust. Anything else, little one? Rosemary shook her head and spoke. No, that is all. Drake then yawned in response as he spoke. Issei, don't wake me up unless it is important. The boosted gear went off as Issei had a look of embarrassment as he looked at the four and spoke with a tone of apology. I am really sorry for his behavior. Juniper shook her head and responded. No, I totally understand. When you are trapped inside the gear, there is nothing much to do. Anyways, I also heard from Jade that you managed to create a new alloy. Would you show it to us? Issei nodded as he responded with a smile. As you wish. Empress Issei opened a dimensional portal as he removed a Saulium and handed it to Juniper, who examined the alloy. She was surprised by how well made it was. This is amazing, you made this yourself? John asked with a tone of surprise as he responded. Yep, with Jade's guidance, I was able to get it done. It was hard to match the elements since it always ended up blowing in my face. However, once I found the right amount of elements, I was able to create a stable alloy. John nodded admiring the alloy from a distance. Juniper then spoke. But this alone, you should have a high chance of gaining admittance to the academy, but I doubt you are done, right? Issei nodded in response as he spoke. No, I desire to make a revolver with this, but you will be seeing the revolver when I show it during the examination, alright? Juniper nodded in understanding as she spoke. I would love to see what it is capable of. Juniper spoke as Issei agreed to her words as she then spoke with a tone after she sees a message on her scroll. She returned the Saulium to Issei and spoke to her children. Oh, I have some work I need to do. John, Rosemary, would you two like to come with me? The duo nodded as she then spoke to Issei. I will take my leave, goodbye and Issei. The duo returned their goodbyes as Juniper teleported back to her castle, leaving Issei alone. Well Issei, read the book I gave you whenever you get the time, okay? Issei nodded as the two then leave the training room themselves. He knew that he made some serious progress. He wondered on how things will progress from here on out. Scene change. Dorms, 4:30 p.m. Issei and Nyx were in their dorms. They were visited by Persephone as she had a small break from her academy as well. She was intrigued by what Issei was doing. Persephone then spoke with a smile. So you made a new alloy, Ice-chan? Persephone asked with happiness, to which Issei responded, yep, and I will be using the alloy to create a revolver. I never actually gave it a name as of yet. Persephone nodded as she checked the Saulium on the table. Earlier she had asked for it and Issei happily gave her a piece of it. She wondered what else it was capable of. It took me several tries and several disappointments, but I eventually succeeded. But now knowing the correct composition and elements, I can create enough for the revolver. Persephone became even more excited as she asked, so when can we see this revolver in action? Issei looked at her and responded. Tomorrow at most. Say, how are Macaria, Melano and Hades doing with their academic studies? Persephone spoke with a sigh. They have been busy. Hades has taken some real interest in military education and is often working on projects where some of the girls have started to have crushes on him. Persephone spoke with a frown on her face. She soon clenched her fist and spoke with an annoyed tone that held jealousy. I wish I was there to show that we are already married. I would crush those man-stealers. Issei shivered upon hearing this. Her anger meant that she was not someone anyone wanted to mess with. She almost felt like a mother to him. Anyways, I will let Hades know and hope he can come whenever you are ready with the weapon. Persephone spoke after taking a deep breath with a small smile. She then spoke with a smile. Well, I will be taking my leave tonight. I do have some homework I need to complete and show to my professors. See ya. Persephone spoke while teleporting back to her dorm. Issei soon took the Saulium and put it in his pocket. He was excited for tomorrow when they would actually make the gun. Say, Issei? Nyx asked Issei, to which he responded. Yeah. Nyx then spoke with a neutral tone. So what is your plan after you graduate? Issei looked at Nyx as he responded. Well, according to the Empress's decree, I will be in the military for a year and then we can choose our career path. I was thinking of entering into military permanently and become a mage so at the very least I can help Arcadia. I mean, I have to repay them back. Nyx nodded in understanding as she spoke. I see, well in that case, I would love to follow you. I don't mind being a part of your legion. Issei looked at her and nodded. He was happy that she would support him till the very end and he was happy to have someone like her in his life. He made a mental vow to protect her at all costs, just like he would have done for anyone else. They soon decided to have their dinner and head off to sleep since there was nothing else they could do at the moment. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Issei researching about more properties of Salium. The next day, Jade Laboratory, 9:30 p.m. Issei was creating the final piece of the revolver. It was almost done and was ready to be tested. Once the metal was made, the revolver creation was relatively easier than he had expected. He looked at revolver and was happy by how it was developed. The revolver itself was described to be a black revolver with orange glass colorings at its barrel, with the coloring increasing towards its muzzle. It had a white coating on its ejector rod, grip and hammer. The cylinder and trigger were orange in color, as well as had a cartridge which would store the crystal needed for the revolver's firing. It also had a covering that was black and orange color combination that had covered the cylinder and hammer. Issei soon took a small orange crystal that had fire magic or his dragon flames stored inside of it and inserted in the crystal, causing a orange glow in the orange crystal parts of the cylinder, cartridge and the covering. The revolver glowed with a sound that seemed to be of starting of an electric car. Issei smiled happily seeing the first weapon of Project Honkai working with success, as he exclaimed. It's working. Issei took the gun in his hands, neither he could feel the heat, nor he could see it being damaged. Jade soon came inside, hearing his voice. As soon as she did, she had a look of happiness in her eyes, as she exclaimed cheerfully. Good job, Issei, you finally made your first weapon. Jade was happy that Issei succeeded, and she was able to help in any way she could. He made his first weapon in success, and Project Honkai was able to work well as well. She then asked, so what name are you going to give this gun? Issei thought for a moment as he spoke with a smile. Judgment of Sahimsh. Jade nodded in understanding, however she couldn't deny that the name sounded too extravagant. Isn't that too much, Issei? The name seems a bit extravagant. Jade commented as Issei spoke. I like the name, so I want to keep it like that. I doubt it is too extravagant in my opinion. Jade's sweat dropped at this as she spoke while narrowing her eyes with a defeated tone. Well, you are the one who made this, so I am not against it. Well, shall we begin testing of the weapon? Issei looked at her and gave a nod. He soon decided to call Hades, Persephone, Nyx to the laboratory. Soon enough the two headed to the testing room. Scene change. Hades, Persephone and Nyx stood behind a glass case for their own safety. Jade was standing on the other side at a control panel to control the experiment. While Issei stood in the testing room, in front of him was an ore of tungsten, one of the metals that is known to have the strongest melting point. If it works, then the tungsten would turn into mush or worse, nothing would be left of thing. Alright, Issei. Your goal will be to turn this tungsten into nothingness with the judgment of Shamash. The tungsten has a melting point of 15,000 degrees Celsius. Since I used magic to increase the melting point, on my signal fire the weapon. Alright. Issei gave a thumbs up from the testing room as he prepared the crystal while muttering. Moment of truth. Drake cheered for his partner as Jade looked at Issei wishing him good luck. She hoped that their experiment would go well. Fire the weapon, Jade exclaimed as Issei pulled the trigger when an orange magic circle indicating the Welsh dragon insignia on it, meaning that he was able to successfully access his flames from the crystal. Issei decided to take on Drake's insignia as his own to commemorate his best friend. Soon enough an orange blast was generated from the gun and was aimed at the tungsten. The blast damaged the gun a little bit due to the recoil, however the Salium regenerated any damage that was done by the weapon. Issei checked his gun, he could feel the heat emanated by the gun due to the recent blast. He spoke. Holy smokes, that is hot. The heat surprised him a bit as he looked at where the blast had struck. He saw the tungsten being converted into mush, meaning it was reaching 15,000 degrees Celsius. The gun seemed to be partially a success, however he soon saw the mush being converted into nothingness, which made him ecstatic. I did it works. Issei looked at his creation with pride. He was the designer of almost a weapon that could be on par with a sacred gear. He saw the glass case, where Persephone, Hades and Nyx were all cheering for him. You did it, Issei. I would say it would be needing some tweaks, but it is battle ready. Issei nodded as Jade motioned him to leave the training room, with Jade clearing the mess up using cooling mixtures she created as soon as he came out. Persephone hugged him and responded. Good job, Ice-chan. Issei had a small blush seeing Persephone act like this, with Hades speaking to her. Persephone looked at him and soon released him after realizing that he is not a child. She rubbed his head making him even more embarrassed. She often used to treat him like her very son. Nyx smiled seeing this side of Issei. She was happy that even he was getting some love. It was much better since the last time she had seen him like this. He never received any love from his own birth mother and instead, he was alone for a very long time. And now he had people that loved and supported him. Regardless, I must say, you did a good job being able to make a gun that could create blasts as hot as the sun. Making such a weapon is incredible. Issei looked at him and spoke with a tone full of gratitude. Thank you, Hades. Hades smiled in response. As Jade soon came into the room and greeted everyone, she then spoke to Issei. Not bad, you did amazing, and you exceeded my expectations for you. I am proud of what we know what you created. Jade spoke with a cheerful tone as she praised Issei, to which Issei spoke. Well, couldn't have done it without you. Jade smiled in response as she spoke. Let me know if you ever wish to continue Project Honkai, okay? Look at the things we can make. We can make galaxy level weapons that can summon black holes, and even a lot more stuff, just imagine. Jade continued blabbering as the force sweat dropped with Issei speaking, trying to calm her down. Oh genius, slow down, I am in no hurry to create more weapons, Issei spoke causing Jade to snap out of her trance, and she realized what she had done, rubbing her head, she spoke with a smile. Anyways, it was nice to work with you, Issei. Jade puts forward her hand, and Issei does so, they perform a handshake as he speaks. Likewise, Jade they look at each other with a smile on their face, as Issei was excited to show this project during the examination that would happen in a few weeks, at the Academy of Technology. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.